Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to look at the next part of Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K, Episode 23, The Cause of Honor. Last time around, from what I've been told, Samael is the best character ever, and they all love him, and it's kind of insane. Especially that fan chimed in and said, yeah, no, he's a completely normal person who normals and normalizing. Normally. I might be paraphrasing a bit, but not enough to make it any less completely normal, and there is nothing to see here. Moving on, you guys know the deal. Link below, video, hit it up. And let's get started. The greater maintenance bays. Oh, we're back to the clones then. Or are we back to the murder body?
Dominus tracked the replica as they flew past.
Nope.
Soaring low at first as they strafed his cover
We're on
with
the
blue
troopers
shots from
on
their
the
long
Imperium
rifles.
side.
He didn't even duck like Gala did, getting lucky as the 3 lines of falling bolts narrowly missed him. He did not miss in return.
I think this is probably the first time I've ever seen this, but outside of Caiaphas Cain, is there anyone in the Imperial Army that gets plot armor? I mean, technically Garrick, but 1, he was Commissar, not Army, and 2, Orcs believed he was a badass, so they might have literally given him actual in-game plot armor. I choose to believe that. If it's not right, I don't care. I'm going to believe it.
Fecking heretics! Heretics! The guardsman was screaming, unloading with strobing volleys from his lasgun, sending red lances to chase the 3 jet troopers. The 3 were struck multiple times, though only 2 fell from the assault.
Oh, they actually managed to hit the jet
dying
troopers?
quickly as his helmet was breached, sending the airborne body careening limply into the ceiling. While the second screamed and flailed, his jetpack pierced by the shots and sparking, flames erupting from it as the replica lost control, being jerked through the air.
That's why. I was kind of wondering why their armor suddenly seems so much weaker than the ground troops who could take a shot and keep going. But they actually mentioned in the previous episode that they sacrificed a lot of armament and some armor to get the jump pack in for their current units, which I didn't really, I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting aside. I didn't actually expect it to come up in the very next episode. So it's kind of cool to have that little thing they talked about saying, yeah, we're sacrificing something, but we're getting to finally jump down there and gun them down. And now we're getting to see someone jump down there and getting gunned down because they sacrificed not surviving. Or, I guess, surviving. Details.
This way and that until slamming with a thud into the floor.
Although I thought it was more weapons they gave up.
Surviving third did not forget him, however, looping around quickly and zeroing in on Farnus. The guardsmen met the flying troopers' hidden glare, and they both opened fire, though Farnus was saved from almost certain death by Gala, who seized him by the collar and dragged him back, jerking his whole body after her with a single muscular arm.
If she didn't have death legs, that would be amazing.
Because of this, he only lost most of his left ear and not his entire head as the Republic warrior cruised by.
Ah, he got Van Gogh.
Farnus bellowed in pain and cupped his molten ear, Nerva grabbing his arm and pulling it away to examine him a moment later. The movement clumsy and awkward until her mechadendrite moved in to compensate for her useless arm. The arm. Gala took over their covering fire, shooting first after the clone that had passed them and then at the ones on foot who were moving to surround them. A few seconds and an injection of stimulant later, and Farnus was back beside her, throwing his fire in with her own. They had made a small U out of spare parts and a few conveniently placed tank treads, and were sheltering behind it to keep from being blasted apart by the replicae who were now moving to flank them.
Damn.
The Imperial soldiers fired from both sides of their makeshift barricades, barrels glowing as they were forced to put out a dangerous level of continuous fire.
Oh, now that's very interesting. I wonder if that'll come into play later. It could just be a character setting detail, a setting detail itself, showing like, yeah, they're going all hell on this one because they just came from Murder Barbie and now they're ahead. Hey, someone who will stay in one place and not just kill us and walk away. They're probably a little mad. So that would explain why the fire discipline is all the fire. Will that backfire on them because overheating weapons? Only if it's at an ironically great point is what I'm assuming. I was going to say I was going to assume that, but with how Fan writes, that doesn't seem to be a trope he would go into, that it would be so telegraphed. And frankly, Murder Barbie doesn't really need that to slaughter them. So I'm assuming something else is going to happen. I don't think it'll be her intervention then. Minerva getting into a knight? Maybe. But I don't think it would be at least anytime soon.
Farnus tracked another flying warrior and paused as his sight crossed the massive iron face of their destination. They were so close, almost at the base of the knight itself. But
they're at the knight already.
A million miles away for all the good it would do them now.
And all the enemies
Gradually,
ran away.
More and more of the white-clad soldiers were realizing that they were there, and already the number of attacking replicae had swelled to far beyond what they could escape from.
They just mentioned they're next to tanks. They got a tech priest near there. Is Minerva any good at... I think I got her name right. I probably messed it up, though. Is she any good at just maybe hacking into a tank and just driving it to the freaking knight? I mean, it would give them cover, and her servo skull did that earlier. She probably is good at? That would be one hell of a way to do it, though. Going full Grand Theft Auto on it.
Doom became a certainty, and it flushed fear and rage in equal portions into Farnas's chest. And then, suddenly and without warning, a new Doom arrived, falling into the fighting mass like a razor-tipped torpedo.
Never mind, murder Barbie.
Undeniable death with it, but not for them.
Okay, one, I guess I was wrong about the trope. He is dropping into setting up Murder Barbie's reveal to the regular Imperium. Two, god damn, that music was pretty hard before, but he's just dropping in that secondary track in here. I don't even know what song this is, but damn. I don't usually like the heavy, deep, synthesized voice where it's just more random tones that sound like a voice and you can occasionally have them make words. But it doesn't sound like that. It almost sounds like tonal... I'm not even sure the term here. It's not dissonance, but just some kind of weird tone being set up just to sound robotic without actually having meaning. But it hits right now with that deep bass effect, but on a very technological level. I like that. There's probably an entire term for that and everything I just said simplified down if someone knew anything about music. I don't, though, so I can just say that it's good and what I'm guessing on.
It was difficult for the soldier to catch everything that had happened. The sudden end of hostilities and the swiftness of the ensuing
slaughter. And they swift in from a metal base to a techno base as it goes from the Imperium to specific Murder Barbie.
That the replicae used to fly around on fell, spiraling and crashing into the back of the assaulting enemy force, plowing burning furrows into the ground and grinding into several Republic soldiers in the process.
I actually forgot to ask, but if there's the guy over there and that's blood, why is what looks like a speeder bleeding? Like, that is a lot of blood. Like, Hammer film level of blood, if you don't know the reference. I'm surprised I do because horror films scare me the shit. Even if they're horrible and not actually scary, I will still get freaked out. I'm very much a coward. But yeah, that's a lot of blood. That's way more than a person. That's more than probably everyone on the floor right now amounts of blood. Court approves.
From its burning wreckage leapt a shape, vaguely feminine in motion and form, every move it made categorized by the need to bring death. The Domina ran on bladed legs, stepping into and through clone soldiers, arms waving as if in an exotic dance, flowing limbs delimbing her enemies as her writhing, spinning form continued to perform its ghastly waltz of death. He blinked and saw images frozen in his mind. The Domina leaping, a duelist's grace marrying machine precision as her performance evolved, the steps shifting even as the murderous rhythm remained the same.
I'm actually a bit surprised that he could understand exactly what he's seeing. Just because, how often does someone understand what the Mechanicus really is? They kind of get cogboys, and the Imperial Army especially would have the most interaction with them. But how often do they see one of them go all out? And not in a, massive call-like procession of bits and bobs and just not really human in the slightest. And this one is very much slim and down to the point of looks human until further inspection levels of mechanization. I don't know. I think that actually might be the surprising part. That said, damn if that's not a cool intro, man. And I can get over all the things I just said about how it's kind of weird he gets what he's seeing so far, because it's really doing a good view of, here's what she looks like from the Imperium side. It's terrifying, but you can also take that step back from the visceral, well, shit, or her imperceptible, or her perceptions to see what's going on. I kind of like just that third perspective of what she appears as.
He blinked again, seeing her amidst a circle of replicae.
And just showing how fast she is from a normal soldier's perspective.
The troops around her slowly rising, and in the same moments, falling to pieces, their heads coming free, their legs collapsing
they're going
away,
full.
Their arms forming a circle.
Cutting the guy, and then they die after you walk away.
Falling imperceptibly slow around the frozen shape of the Magos Kali Delta. And then, like the flash of lightning or the searing exit of a teleportarium, she was gone. and the clones all around them were sheared into collapsing giblets of meat and armor.
Yep.
For a few scant moments, all three of the survivors were too shocked to react. Gala actually continued to shoot mutely into the pieces of the clones around them. Now! We have to go now! Nerva suddenly said, popping her head out from behind the cover and looking around to make sure they were clear. Hearing her words, Gala seemed to reorient on her goal, rising to her feet and bringing Farnus up to his own by unconscious example. Without another word, they rushed for the looming feet of the massive walker. Standing almost 50 feet tall and made in the vague suggestion of an anthropomorphic shape, glowered silently down upon them through blue, inactive lenses. Nerva sped up and took the lead from them, guiding them to where the chain ascension ladder would come down. She called it down with a data pulse which she transmitted through the remaining noosphere connections she had.
Oh.
Blessedly, the dormant knight responded, clinking from high above and releasing
so all that gunfire and nothing hit it to do
behest.
damage?
Wishing the damn thing had an ascension function, she took the solid rungs and began to climb the edifice of war, struggling with her single arm, but managing thanks to her robotic limb. Gala came up right behind her, and Farnus was hot on her trail. She grabbed the ladder and began to climb, quickly giving the other guardsmen room to follow, and together the three ascended for almost 12 full seconds.
What? They're getting in with her? Knights aren't that big, are they? It's like a cockpit size, but I'm assuming it's Imperium. If you're not in the specific designated location to pilot, I'm assuming you'll die to something crushing you. It's the Imperium. Safety is not a concern. And also, if a pilot's out of place, then they were too stupid to be a pilot. It's not like it's a Titan where they actually care about survival because there's so few. But yeah. Either they're going to be crammed in there or they're about to be told to get down.
Before they were noticed again, a spray of blue shots emerged from below them, and though the spattering seemed ill-aimed, it was accurate enough to strike Gala twice in different places on her back. Ooh. The woman screamed and slumped against the rungs. Gala! Oh, throne! Oh, burning throne! Gala! Are you all right? Farnus cried out, climbing up as fast as he could, though Gala appeared to have stopped moving altogether. The formidable guardswoman seemed to hang tenuously from the ladder for a couple seconds, head lolling somewhat, eyes fluttering as she tried to focus.
Oh, not dead yet.
The soldier began to slide off. No! Throne, damn it! No, no! He yelled, panic festering in his voice as he clawed his way up desperately. Gala groaned, gripping the bars before her once more, gritting her teeth without any strength as she held on for dear life.
I mean, it was impressive when the Sarge took the bullet to the chest and ended up dying of incidentally taking out his blood pump, which admittedly makes sense, not tethered to pills, just, you know, bad luck to find an enemy that's used to droids, and he happened to have droid-adjacent parts. So, yeah. But more importantly, that's impressive, but he set off ways to die. Here, she just took 2 shots to the back while exposed, while holding on and fighting through the pain not to die. This is actually really damn impressive, and she's been built up as this badass who, again, I'm getting a lot of death flags on her. Either that, or she'll somehow survive, but in rough shape, considering she's already been shot twice. Probably already at the rough shape part. Just this part right here, though, does so much to build on top of the previous. Yeah, she has all these great attributes of being tough and rugged, and she like ducks when she needs to. She knows what to do. She's a great shot. Like, building her up so much. This right here, how to deal with pain, or showing that she's having that almost insane level of just damage ignorance. Ignoramus? What? No. Damage ignorance. Or at least to be able to fight through it, to hold on to the ladder while being shot in the back. It's right up there with 1313, but 1313 is Krieg. She ain't. It's crazy. And I love how that's just a little bit showing, yeah, no, she's actually as tough as the story's building her up to be.
But failed. The Underhiver fell backwards, away from the ladder, losing consciousness as she did, though retaining enough to grunt softly as she was arrested from her fall. Farnus grit his teeth, knuckles white as one hand held onto one of the ladder's rungs, while the other gripped Gala's ankle with all the strength he had.
He caught her ankle?
He roared, pain filling him as he strained against her weight and the swinging motion of the ladder.
To give you an idea, 50 pounds could rip your arm out of its socket. A human being in armor is more than 50 pounds. Good on him. Imperium tech apparently is really good at keeping arms in sockets.
He couldn't
Also, it might be
climb.
less than 50
He
pounds for all I
couldn't
know.
move. He
It's been a while
was
since I
trapped.
checked.
Distantly, the Imperial soldier was grateful that no more blaster bolts came for him, and attributed his reprieve to the Omnissiah's agent of wrath. Still, reprieve or no, it was
Murder Barbie
only
is
a
a great
matter of
distraction.
time before they were noticed again, and the Domina could not be in all places at once. Let her go! Nerva
debatable.
called down, nearing the top herself, having paused only briefly to glance down at them. No! I can't! I won't! He yelled back. You have to! You'll die otherwise! She
Slide
tried
down
to
and find
reason.
cover.
No! I won't let them all die! I won't! Emperor, damn me!
She's
I won't let them
going
go!
to kill him, isn't
He
she?
cried, voice breaking, grip slipping. He looked up after her, eyes red, tears running. You have to... keep going! Turn the battle! Save the Imperium! He yelled up after her. Make it worth it! Make it worth us!
And he's come to the probably correct conclusion. They did their job. They got her to the knight. They're collateral at this point. He's not willing to let them die, and he probably can't contribute anymore. Whether he gets that last part or not, I don't know. I'm still surprised that she's not dead yet, specifically Gala. Like, I went on about how tough she is, but I thought that was going to be followed, and then she died, splat, and this is just a really good way to remember her. The fact that she survived and is in horrible shape, that's a little surprising, considering Fan doesn't really do the entire plot armor thing, except for Jedi, who have that as a literal condition of being Jedi, which he has stated before, and I actually kind of approve of because it's just kind of fun way to play with that as an explicit fact. An empty room within the Azure City. Aren't there a lot of those?
Combir had taken his position in one of the empty
Empty
rooms
room,
along
my
the
ass.
outer
He's in
rim
it.
of the Samtara Center Spire, which was essentially across the street from their target. Even so, when the actual breadth of the crossing was considered, no one could say he was anything better than relatively close.
Oh.
That was why he needed the powerful Trilight scope mounted onto his Ripper rifle. While the original Mandalorian Ripper was never designed for use in ranges greater than several meters, the heavy Ripper rifle, by virtue of its dramatically increased power, was quite capable of making shots at nearly 2 kilometers distance.
That is one hell of a range increase from a couple, meters to kilometers. Damn. I mean, I'm still a heathen American. I do everything in metric, or, well, imperial. But I know enough metric to know that kilometer is big. So that's a pretty nice distance right there.
On top of that, the Airtech scope it bore
How far
was
apart
capable of
are the
guiding a
buildings
weapon
anyways?
which could fire at 100 times greater distance than
Probably
his own.
significantly.
As it was, he was closer than a
There's
kilometer
multiple
from where
tanks
the
that would go
action would be
between them.
happening, and was thus comfortably inside his effective range. Watching with his enhanced vision, he spied on their objective, an Imperial outpost which they had built by this road to help check traffic.
Oh, so we're seeing the site of what
Naturally,
he's
there was
looking
no
down on.
traffic as of now, and all the men who stood around the octagonal bunker seemed to be on high alert, but it was hardly them he was most concerned with. Beside the bunker was a
The Imperial
massive
theme?
gun turret of some kind, and beside that, a pair of 2-legged light walker tanks. The turret
Stalkers?
and others like it had been deployed to the ground from space and was some kind of twin-linked slug thrower bearing an absolutely absurd caliber. It seemed to
Oh,
swivel
God.
and twitch mechanically, never remaining still for too long, and slowly revealing just how much range of movement it truly had when aimed.
This is something I absolutely love. I'm not sure if it's intention or not, but when you're playing the tabletop game, you deploy terrain pieces like this that are functional fortifications. At the same time, you start setting up terrain itself. And it's just funny. It's like you plop it straight down. So in universe, it would be literally deployed from space straight down. It's just that funny one-to-one of how it works. And it really does amuse me. It's stupid, but it does get me.
Aiming. The 2 walkers beside it seemed similar to the Republic's ATRTs, but far more heavily armed and armored, each pilot completely hidden from view within. Already the force seemed like a formidable one, and that was not even counting the soldiers visible outside, or the ones who could be presumed to be inside.
Oh.
But regardless, he felt they were ready. In fact, this was not even the real battle.
What?
Not really.
Because
not in
they're not
regards
aware of
to
that,
what they were
probably.
actually preparing themselves for.
Oh no, their
To
plan.
their west, the so-called Basilica of Salvation was under siege by Republic forces.
Okay, so they are aware of
To
that going
the
down.
east, approaching in ranks, was a mobilized force of Imperial reinforcements. Their plan
That's
was
the other
simple.
battle?
Aid the Republic by preventing the reinforcements. Simple. Step 1.
Oh. So this isn't going to be a three-front war. This is the Star Wars side now attacking 1313 and Major Lazarus. Oh, was not expecting that to be the confrontation. I was actually thinking there should be a three-prong instead of just simplifying it down to a two-prong again. Technically, if you count space, there's more than that, but I'm not because it gets way more confusing at that point. They haven't really interacted, minus the ship falling, which, since nobody has mentioned a starship falling from orbit yet, probably hasn't happened, at least on the ground level. I mean, yes, this entire planet could have fallen anywhere else. Plot-wise, though, no, that would not make any sense. I don't think Fan would do that unless he's taking them all out of the action just to get them out of whatever's about to happen that will probably kill everyone. It's like, and here's where the survivors are, who just miss it because they fell on the other side of the planet. I don't believe for a second that's what's going to happen. I fully believe they'll be landing close to the conflict and showing just what happens when crazy shit happens, because a starship falling from orbit is a really cool set piece. And I'd be very disappointed if Fan wastes that. I don't think he will.
Take over the
though.
outpost. Step 2. Fortify it. And step 3. Deny the enemy access. And what's more, in addition to being simple, it was inevitable. The reasons why began to reveal themselves from the
Inevitable?
surrounding buildings and accesses, moving silently and subtly at first, but growing bolder as their numbers swelled and completely
A
breaking
lot of
with
shots
stealth
right
once
away.
the Imperials began to notice them. Tens of thousands of Axumites had answered the call, and now those tens of thousands were starting to surround the Imperial position. Combeer had half expected the imps to throw down their weapons and surrender straight away.
Yeah, no, they won't. I mean, it makes sense for him to do that because people in Star Wars do occasionally surrender. Hell, you saw that at the end of Return of the Jedi when there were surviving stormtroopers who surrendered. But in the Imperial side, 40K, surrender is usually worse. No, don't. One, you could surrender to the Tau, and it would be less horrible than anything else. On the other hand, you would have to surrender to the Tau. I'm biased, and I'm standing by that. But every other option is literally probably better to die fighting. It's much safer that way. Yeah. Tens of thousands, though, just for this one choke point. That is a very significant army. Because if you got guns coming from all sides, one of them's going to get a lucky hit, man. Might not take this down because it looks like it might be durable enough. But all the people out there, they're dead. The walkers, the lucky hit probably might hit something. Really depends how thorough this is.
After all, they were hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned.
How good are their weapons,
That
though?
did not happen. Instead,
They fired?
they were the ones to take the first strike and draw first blood. The turret spun and opened fire, the sound of it thundering horrifically as it sent two thick streams of exploding micro-missiles out in
This is
nearly
literally
all
the
directions.
Imperial Army's bread and butter.
A quarter
Rebellions
of the
on planet.
approaching front line of Axumites were turned into gore paste before Combeer's eyes, and a dull pain pierced his skull above his right eye.
Because he's force sensitive,
But it
yeah.
was far from done. While the Imperial men ran back into the bunker, chased in by a stuttering hail of blaster fire, the enclosed
They didn't all fire at
all-terrain
once?
Imperial walkers
Because they were probably
spun
walking
to
up the
face
road,
different
not
sides
surrounding
of
it
the
fully.
crowd, each bounding away on flexible, agile legs. They sported two weapon mounts each, a large, repeating slug thrower that could have cleaved a speeder in half with each of its explosive thunks, and a lit flamethrower that seemed to be the size of an entire man.
Yep.
As the turret tore chunks out of the scattering
turret's what really
Axumites,
turns it immediately.
The walkers jumped into the crowds, trampling and
I forgot how
stomping
fast
down on
these
the
things
rebels
are.
in their midst, even as they opened fire. Wide fans of liquid flames began the horrifying work of filling the air with human and alien screams.
Yeah.
Their victims left to writhe and cook as large guns opposite each flamethrower issued out more and more deadly fire.
I mean, I already said that this is the bread and butter of the army. They are more or less there for helping out on some big threats, but mostly taking down planetary rebellions, because that is the most common type of warfare in the Imperium. It really is. Like, the big fights, the cool fights against the big enemies who are actually threats, that's almost the most cool things out there. It's what gets the higher level fighters. It gets the Astartes, the Custodes, the Death Watch. It'll bring in Knights and Titans and all the really cool set-piece armies. But when you're actually getting down into what the Imperium is day to day, it's rebellions, it's traitors, it's just going after the low-level stuff of, here's a entire world that decided it doesn't want to be part of the Imperium anymore. Fix that. So this is, yeah, kind of what they're actually spec'd out for.
The shots pulped the mostly civilian fighters with strafing volleys of high-caliber steel.
Yeah.
He had never seen it before. He had never watched people transform, going from alive, thinking, moving, being,
his mom was right,
to dead, inert, silent, still.
They probably should have just tried
women,
to get
some he may have
positions
known,
everywhere
were
so they
walking
couldn't
and shouting
be
in
shot
one
easily.
moment and then being
That doesn't
reduced
sound
to
like it.
meat and slime in the next. The impact of that, the permanence of it, had never really struck him in any true way until that very moment. This was no game. Those people, more people already than the Imperials had in the outpost, were never coming back. All at once, he felt like he was in way too deep over his head. Why hadn't his mental simulations been accurate? He'd known people would die.
Mental simulations? I get it. They're just trying to show up. He was trying to think through how things would go. But it didn't actually occur to him, oh shit, dead people is bad. It makes perfect sense. This isn't a character gripe. This isn't even saying anything about fan's ability right now. He's doing a kid who's shot in the, oh shit, this is real sense, because that's actually a perspective we haven't really seen since the very couple first chapters with the one Padawan who's definitely dead. You don't see it on screen. It didn't happen. Especially when it looked more like he was just taken hostage or something. Or, well, I guess prisoner, since hostage is something that I don't think the Imperium does much. Because they don't really care to negotiate or let things live.
He had known. He had thought he was prepared to deal with it.
Nope.
The rebels were not helpless, even as they were laid into by the
Unless
Imperial
they have a lot
outpost
heavier armor, a
forces,
lot more than I
and
expect.
the mass of them were mostly firing as they either charged,
Okay, they're at least
took cover,
firing.
or ran screaming. The hulls of the two agile walkers were even starting to glow slightly orange. Pieces of their armor falling away in molten scraps.
So they just need one good hit
the
scene
air
then.
distorting around
Or one
their
big
armor
one.
as the heat from blaster fire was released into their surroundings. But it wasn't until someone mounted and properly aimed a Plex missile launcher that the Imperials really began to feel the pressure they were under. The detonite missile fired from the crowd made a straight line for what seemed to be empty space. The genius of the aim only revealed when one of the two walkers jumped into its path. It exploded twice. First upon impact.
Calling it now, I think we all know exactly who had that rocket launcher. A random person who we have not encountered in the story.
As the detonite went critical and blew away most of the pilot's compartment. And then again when the contents of the breached Prometheum tanks touched the heated surface of the vehicle,
then it can explode
destroying
too.
what was left. The blast snapped Combeer back to himself, and he shouldered his rifle more snugly. He stopped thinking.
How
put
powerful
off
is this
feeling,
Ripper? Can it
put
get through
off
armor?
everything. He reached a place then, amidst his panic and duty, a place where only pseudo-thoughts could exist.
Did he literally just pull the Luke use the force shot from... Yeah. He did. He just pulled off the focus, Luke, use the force to find the shot that'll somehow bend down into the hole. Because even though the force wasn't actually the bending part, because apparently missiles would just do that on its own, they can't actually home in beyond that. Oh, God. Sorry, I just love that it's a call out directly to the untrained, force sensitive, who just knows enough that they can reach that place of pseudo-thoughts. It's so much a call out to that. I'm not even sure it's intentional on fans' part, but it functions like that so well.
Where there was no consideration, no attempting, no right and no wrong. There were simply two options here, in this simple but clear place. Do or do not.
There is no try.
The young Axumite chose the latter option as
And
he
a
sighted
quick,
down
not
the
even-
remaining walker,
almost
which
a reference
ducked
to
and bobbed
Yoda.
around two
Nice.
rockets which were sent blazing its way. The unblooded rebel bit his lip, tracking the thing and waiting for his moment. Now, said a voice from deep within him, and he squeezed the trigger. His Ripper reacted instantly,
How powerful is it?
obediently, even eagerly. The instantaneous triggering of its ionic field making the shot feel like it had left the barrel almost before he had fired it.
Ooh.
It was nearly silent, using no conventional explosives as propellant for its ammunition. Inside the
It's not an
barrel
ion
of his
weapon?
weapon, a smooth spike of polarized durasteel was instantly charged with an ionic field. The charge naturally pushed both against the spike and the rifled interior.
It's a freaking rail gun. Because I thought they said it was an actual physical ballistic weapon. But apparently, no, it's literally using an ion field to work in the same way as magnets in a rail gun to just launch the spike in. If that spike doesn't have anything else on it, I actually wouldn't be surprised, but I'd be kind of a little disappointed. There's probably something else to the spike as well, like some kind of explosive or just like punch clean through. Is it like solid bore? I don't know, but I want to find out. This is so cool. Sorry, these kind of things are literally my bread and butter when it comes to anything sci-fi, and I love every second of it.
Interior of the barrel, adding spin as it ejected its enveloped round from the gun. The overpowered ionic field was meant to do far more than push the ammunition towards the target. And the recoil from the two objects, the gun and the bullet, attempting to separate from each other, jostled his arm painfully as the spike came screaming, whistling through the air. It struck the canopy of the vehicle, burning through the relatively light armor and exited out the bottom of the walker, burying itself into the floor beneath. Then,
Okay, there it goes. That is actually a solid spike then. But he said then, so something else about to happen? Dude. Oh. And if they hit anything explosive, that could actually take that out.
by a delay of only about a second,
Yeah.
a round 3-foot hole was atomized into the entire vehicle.
What?
The entry and exit points growing as the rims of their initial teeny holes dissolved into metallic dust and ash.
What?
Within, all that was left of the pilot were his hands, still clutching his controls, and his feet now light against the pedals below him. The raw power of the Ripper rifle astounded the Axumites, not least of all the one who had fired the shot.
Did they just dissolve people with the first shot just passing through and everything else just because the ion field was maybe on it? Or was the sheer shockwave of it? How the hell did they achieve that? I know it'd be technobabble, but I actually want to know what the technobabble behind this is.
In spite of this, he didn't lose his focus, rapidly orienting to sight down the turret next.
Good.
His blood frosting over in his veins as he saw that the large chain-linked weapon
Aimed at
was
him.
oriented in his exact direction.
Ah.
Combier cried out, kicking away from the window of the building and falling back as 4 explosive shots careened into the wall and ceiling around him, bursting open the entire wall and caving in part of the floor above.
Oh.
Still, no more shots
got out of the
than
way, though.
initial burst came, and as Combier groaned and rolled off his back and onto his feet, he found that he seemed and felt completely intact.
I just realized why they made him force sensitive. They gave him pseudo plot armor. Because anyone else in this situation wouldn't have noticed as fast. So this gives Fan the leeway, at least within his own internal narrative, to say, okay, he's going to notice things that probably shouldn't, but it gives him a chance to stay relevant to the plot a little more, even though he's a rank newbie. Hey, I'll take it. But also, it's only pseudo because he's not trained. So it's only as good as just a really good hunch. It's a silly internal narrative decision, but it's one that does make perfect sense, and I fully enjoy because it just gives more time with a fun character.
Swallowing bitter bile and ignoring the
Probably gonna
urine that
die
had
horribly,
escaped
though.
into his pants, he crawled up to the lip and looked down again through his scope and saw why it had ceased firing. The turret had been
Rocket?
hit by at least 2 additional rockets, and it was left a
2?
burning, sparking mess from the resultant damage.
Oh.
Still, it was clearly attempting to function, its mount still twitching
Yeah.
and trying to orient itself,
Tech in the
still
Imperium is
aiming at
durable.
him. It managed a half-hearted measure and attempted to fire the one remaining weapon it had, the other having been blown clean off. Combeer tensed, but found no need to fear as the gun exploded violently a second later. Its automatic loading mechanism now damaged, pinching through explosive
Okay, that's just
rounds
lucky,
as it
man.
moved them
Hot
into the
armor
gun.
indeed.
He sighed heavily, but decided to take one more shot before the crowd closed in too much around the
At
bunker.
who?
He fired his next spike into the now sealed doors of the Imperial holdout, watching with rapt attention as it streaked through the air and collided with the target. The spike struck the doors and bounced off, spinning away and out of sight.
So this is more
A second
thick
later,
armor.
the door began to fall apart, but only so much. The tan exterior of the bunker melted away into ash and sand, revealing a dark gray metal nearly an inch within.
Durasteel?
A second and third shot confirmed the growing disappointment in the rebels' mind. The matte gray metal was simply unaffected in its entirety. That's about all I can do. Combeer sighed. He shrank back from the ledge of the open apartment and collapsed against the far wall, shaking dust and debris out of his hair.
Damn.
He blushed and frowned as he truly noticed the wet stain in his trousers, pushing himself up with a groan. His father had been down there, somewhere, though he had faith that Herod would have known well enough to stay back from the front. Thinking otherwise was
Yeah, you're just making those death flags really prominent right now.
not something he allowed himself to do. But as eager as he was to confirm that his father was safe, he put it off for now, looking around instead.
Use your nerve later.
Gotta be a change of pants somewhere up here.
Okay, so anyone who knows how those Ripper rifles work, let me know, especially the heavy variant, because that is such a cool technology where it has a physical railgun spike followed by almost like an ionization effect. Some kind of effect that just destroys matter bonds if they're not dense enough, and that is so cool. I want to know more about how this works. I have no idea, and I want more. Oh, God. Yes, I'm fanboying over sci-fi tech that's completely implausible and impossible, and it's so cool. This is why I get into things like Battletech and Warhammer, because I like all the cool tech stuff. It's why a lot of my armies are just over-spec'd on machines that are probably horrible unless the points change, but they look cool. Yeah, big shiny metal things. Future me, please cut that out. I know that will be taken out of context. Oh, God. Yeah, thanks, Future me. Wait, Future me's a dick. Shit. Yeah, more importantly, you guys know the deal. This was really cool, but I want more. So I'm going to go do that. For everyone else, though, well, actually, no, I can't have to do adult. Damn you, adulting. Meh. More importantly, link below, video, hit it up. And I'll be back as soon as I can, as soon as the adulting's done. I mean, you won't see it right away, but I will, and that's what I'm really caring about right now, because this is so freaking good. Either way, see you guys then. Adios.